over the mountain. We're going over. They're not going to just creep around and kill the baby silently and give you cancer slowly anymore. Now they're coming. Total economic collapse, war, disease. All the games are over. Playtime's gone. The honeymoon is a thing of the past. And that's a good thing, because now people will be forced to choose a side. Satan and a little bit of temporary power and an eternity of being cut off from God, or rising to the occasion and standing against evil and finally really living, and the mist clears and God's right there. And you're like, how did I ever not understand this? How do they serve Satan when they don't even imagine the power of God? And it's because they are cut off. All right, let's get into it right now. I'm totally ready to lay it all out. I'm ready to lay it out to the president. I'm ready to lay it out to the American people, to the people of the planet, to the Pentagon, to everybody about the choices we all have to make right now. And I know it's time for you, all of you watching and listening, to lay it out as well to your husband, your wife, your neighbors, your church, to the person that screams at you at a gas station because you're not wearing a stupid mask when most of the counties in the United States don't have one damn case of this weaponized cold. I'm going to lay it out next segment. And I started to get into this morning. Again, I got up at 5 a.m., went down, got some coffee, cooked some eggs. I went out on the back porch with a little surveillance tablet, and I was just pulling up the news, and it was just over the top insane. All over the world saying, watch your parents. What are they saying about COVID-19? Report them. The Wuhan bioweapon lab and the Chinese operatives running Facebook and blocking the Pentagon and the president, and AP saying it came from Wuhan, which is confirmed. And I just sat back and asked myself, is the president in an incremental trance, not resisting this, or is he part of it? And I know Trump's not part of it. Trump doesn't think the public can handle the truth. Well, you know what? I think you can handle the truth. And in my experience, when people get slapped up against the face with reality, they're not wimps. They're ready to stand up against it. But see, most people are very humble. And so they don't see themselves as leaders. And I want to tell people that are humble out there, I understand you're humble, but if you don't get motivated and very aggressive right now, we're going to lose our entire future, and it's the end of the planet as we know it. One world government, microwave, torture system, absolute destruction of the youth, pedophilia push, Satanism out in the open. Microsoft is financing unbelievable ads that show open Satanism and devil worship and demons being conjured. And there's 99% rejection of it. And that's what's crazy about this is, even though we reject it spiritually, they are forcing it in. The TSA was just a little test. Border stays wide open, Islamists pour in, but they're going to grab your 5-year-old's genitals, your daughter or your son. It's all an act of power over you and your family, an act of submission. And it's also about murdering common sense. I have a stack of announcements here where they're still bringing in thousands of Afghans a month and resettling them in Ohio and Texas and Michigan and Idaho. Thousands a month. That's just one country. They're being just brought in. Oh, but you better stay in your house. It's all a giant fraud. 80,000 people died of the flu in 2018. They're not counting anybody new in the last 2 months that's died of the flu. They always say COVID. It's a hoax, folks. Doesn't mean there isn't a real virus killing people. People are always dying. But billions are going to starve to death and be depopulated from this by the first world collapsing. That's admitted. I have the actuaries. The very UN running this is now like, oh, give us more money to help the starving third world. I'm going to cover it all when we come back. But all I can tell you is that it's exactly how we foresaw it. Because you could see it all lining up and what they were beta testing and what they were doing, and it's exactly what we predicted. And then we know exactly what's going to happen next. And it's like sitting here watching this, no wonder they've got to get us off the air. And again, when they kill me or arrest me, folks, remember, that's not a defeat. That's courage, and that's what we have to have. Because we're all dead anyways. And I won't back down. Because I know what's right. I've only got one life. There's no easy way out of this. In fact, people thinking they go along to get along is what has allowed us to get in this position now. And the more you submit now, the more you're going to be enslaved. Because this has been the plan stated to cut off your carbon, to cut off your life, to cut off your mobility, to absolutely bring you down to a below a third world status and then lower the third world into total starvation. Hey, baby, there's no easy way out. Stand my ground. Because you can't back down. More than 2 billion people of the 7.5 billion on this planet, according to the UN's own numbers, and those are pretty accurate numbers, are at starvation level. Look it up. On average, about 12 million people, it's estimated, die of starvation and malnutrition every year. And there is a quiet elitism. It's not racism. Racism isn't a thing. Tribalism is what there is. And we think about it as, oh, that's the third world. That's Africa, that's Latin America, that's areas of Asia, the Middle East. And again, those people are used as weapons against us to come in, drive down wages, to vote for globalism. So they've been made the enemy. And many of them are the enemy because they're in a bad position. They've already been enslaved. They're being thrown at us. Like somebody picks a rock up and hits you in the side of the head with it. The rock's not bad. The globalists just picked it up and hit us in the head with it. Doesn't mean we capitulate and they manipulate our humanity and say, give up your borders, give up your sovereignty, help the poor people. Because the globalists aren't trying to help them. They're trying to bring us down to their level so that they don't have anybody to save them. And when you deindustrialize and you collapse the first world, just the estimates put out by Russia and the United States, and Lord Monckton has his own, that if they did a 50% carbon cut like they wanted by 2025, they wanted the deal in place by 2008, didn't happen, that over 1 billion people would starve to death in the first decade. That's a billion. And everybody can sit there and play games. Well, there are too many people. It's for the earth, because you're all taught that in the media. And even if you believed those numbers and believed that disinformation, it's a plan to get rid of everybody. And now the globalists admit that. They say a post-human world is coming. And so the people that sign on to be guardians of the earth to get rid of the excess population and sterilize these third world folks for their own good, the truth is they're just psychotics that want full control and full power. And they're the people at Cold Springs Harbor and at the Royal Academy in Britain that created Hitler, on record in Pulitzer Prize-winning books like Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by Scheer and others. So that's why it's like if you've watched Star Wars, you know who Darth Vader is. Well, it's like if you've read history books, you know who Bill Gates' dad was, and Thomas Watson and James Watson, and who ran the human genome. And I mean, these are the people, you know, giving Hitler the orders. I mean, at Nuremberg, they're listing Cold Springs Harbor and how they were under U.S. command. Hitler was put in power by the British and U.S. intelligence. So I'm sitting here knowing who the players are in horror, saying Bill Gates is going to take over. He'll be the president of the world. He'll have forced inoculations. You'll have a digital tattoo to travel, because he's been saying it and getting it ready for decades. And Bill Gates is on record saying, kill the old people, kill the third world. He's on record saying, reduce humans down to zero to save the earth. And the crowd laughs because they're part of the sick cult. Imagine their power trip. They're not going in and industrializing the third world. They're not going in and trying to get people to only have 2 kids or whatever and actually building them up. No, no, no. They are using that as the excuse to have total power over everyone. And they're putting vaccines into us that lower our immunity, lower our fertility, and don't even protect us. And then when they've got the third world as captives, it's not just the Constance Gardner, where, a fiction movie where he finds out they're injecting people with secret experiments in Africa and killing them. That's based on true stories, folks. The Constance Gardner is not fiction. It's going on now, and it's going to happen to you now. Bill Gates has come out and said, a lot of you are going to get sick and die from the vaccine, but it's for the greater good. They're going to externalize the method they've used at the health departments and they've used at the medical corps level to go, yeah, there are a lot of bad side effects, but it's better for the greater good and saves billions that millions die. But the doctors are looking at the numbers and going, this isn't really true. What's in this stuff? Why don't people get clean vaccines? The doctors now learn that the rich people actually get electron microscope scanned clean vaccines, where it's just the pathogen and just enough adjuvant to make it work. And it still has side effects, but some of them, I would choose to get some things sometimes if it was really bad. But see, it's not. It's a cover for the larger operation. So the president has to understand this. And we've chronicled every move of how they'd operate and what they're going to do next. And I can tell you that, and I'm not bragging about this, the Pentagon and intelligence agencies in the White House at this point are in awe of InfoWars, how we continue to be way ahead of the curve. It's because, Mr. President, we're not naive. And I understand why the Pentagon doesn't want to admit the deep state launched this attack on purpose, because we have to go to war with who did that. And I understand why people don't want to admit all this is going on, because you go out and go to parties with Bill Gates. You're standing right next to Satan. It's like Albert Speer said, why were you with Hitler and you were a good guy, supposedly? He goes, well, when the devil's got his arm around you, you don't recognize it. If what I'm saying is true, we have to go to war with these people at the local level, the international level, the national level. And it's a horrible thing. But we're at war and they're attacking us, cutting our economies off. They launched the damn attack. They've been caught doing it. The communist Chinese are now publicly running the censorship in the U.S. It's suddenly all over the news. And everybody's kind of like, well, we're all invested in each other, and, well, they're everywhere, and the Chinese spies are everywhere, and the big foundations fund them, and can we beat it? And anybody sticks their heads up, gets attacked. They're expecting you to not see what this really is and deal with it. But only by full commitment and recognizing it and being honest can we. President comes out, announces this. America already senses it. The world already knows. We will destroy these people in hours. We can annihilate them now. It's us or them.
InfoWars.